It's a great honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Kay Coles James. She's a woman who came from humble beginnings, succeeded against formidable odds, and has answered the call to serve her country. When Virginia's governor asked her to lead the state's Health and Human Services Department, she answered the call. When Presidents Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and George Bush asked her to serve, she answered the call. When President Trump asked her to join his transition team, she answered the call. And when the Heritage Foundation asked her to serve on the Board of Trustees and then lead Heritage as president, she answered the call. We're deeply grateful for Kay James's strong leadership of the Heritage Foundation as we continue to be true north for the conservative movement.
Socialism has never, ever worked anywhere.
What about the fact that there may be low unemployment in a portion of the state, and the circumstances are that there are no jobs there? And I said, well, what are you telling me? Well, then I think the states should support them. I said, can we just end this conversation right here by saying I'm a capitalist, you're a socialist? The first day I stepped foot in the Heritage Foundation all those years ago, I knew then that I'd found a very special place. And in no small measure, I really feel like everything in my life has sort of been gearing up for this moment. What would our world look like if the pro-life movement packed up and decided to go home? I think the implications of that are scary. What are the implications for the elderly in our country if we don't win? What are the implications for the millions of unborn children in this country if we don't win? Another thought that I had when we were talking about wishing back the neighborhoods and the importance of the way it was, I also felt a profound sense of unease as we talked about that, because Lord knows I don't want my neighborhood back. The neighborhood that I came out of was a public housing project and from a dysfunctional family. And there's nothing there to be glorified or to go back to. What really needs to happen is we need to replace welfare and the entire culture with something called temporary assistance. What a novel idea. You know, that's where we got started, but somehow over the years we allowed it to evolve into something that looked like a lifestyle choice where you see generation after generation after generation of people trapped in this cycle of dependency.
How many of you want to see this country return to a high regard for the value, the dignity, and the sanctity of human life?
We have got to figure out how to do civil discourse in this country.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm a conservative. I've seen throughout my life that freedom is the only means by which people can reach their aspirations. And that's why I also know that the principles we cherish, the ones which our founding fathers fought for, must be protected. And the fight for those principles will never, ever end. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I was watching from behind stage and I thank the Lord. I had no idea I used to be that skinny and cute. I took a lot of grief from my family for that video. I thought it was going to be over the hair or the eyeglasses, but it was the shoulder pads that did it. And it just reminded me how awfully long I've been engaged in this battle with you. It was certainly a trip down memory lane. Well, you know, a Southerner's in charge here when you get served barbecued chicken and mac and cheese and cobbler for lunch. Welcome. Welcome to our 35th annual President's Club meeting. I want to see the hands of first-timers. How many of you are here for the very first time? Wow. Well, whether you've been attending for 35 years or this is your first time, I want to thank you for coming to Washington and being a part of what we hope will be an absolutely phenomenal few days. This is a time for us to come together for fellowship, for hearing from some outstanding speakers like the Vice President of the United States, for talking with some of our top policy minds in the country. When we were coming in, someone said, "Oh my gosh, is that Sebastian Gorka?" And I said, "Yeah, it really is." That's going to happen a lot over the next couple of days as you see the people that you've seen on television and talk to and have the opportunity to challenge and share ideas with. But why else are we here? Why are you taking time away from work and your family and what could be a beautiful fall trip to see the foliage up north? It's because there's a lot that's going on in this nation right now. And the daily headlines show us that there are people working every day to destroy this nation that we love. And we, you and I, have to stop them. Thank you for that. You get a far better speech if I hear a couple of amens and uh-huhs. We have to stop them because we know America is the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And we have to stop them because we want to leave a nation to our children and our grandchildren that's at least as free as the one that you and I inherited. That's why you're here. It's because you care. And as I promise you, as the president of the Heritage Foundation, we will not let you down. We love this nation. And together with you, we will fight for her. When I talk about fighting for this country, I'm reminded of the patriots of the American Revolution and the much greater sacrifices they made against a much more formidable foe. I'd like to tell you the story of General Anthony Wayne of George Washington's Continental Army. Wayne raised a militia unit at the start of the Revolution, and in 1779, Washington ordered him to storm the seemingly impregnable cliffside fortifications held by the British at Stony Point, New York. The British soldiers not only had a superior position, they had lots of cannons and muskets. But despite the odds, Wayne's men made a daring nighttime assault. And think about this, employing only their bayonets as weapons. And it was what anyone would have called a suicide mission. His men stormed the fortifications. The battle, it only lasted 30 minutes. Yet Wayne and his troops emerged victorious, and their victory boosted the morale of the entire Continental Army. General Wayne's victory wasn't gained just by strategy, but also by the sheer will to succeed. Because what the American people wanted and what they had to lose was much greater than what Great Britain stood to gain. And so it is with the battle today between those who want to preserve this nation and those who want to bring her down. Although at times it may feel like we're outmaneuvered and figuratively outgunned, only figuratively,
We have a stronger will to win because of what's at stake. It's because of the moral and financial support that you provide that we're able to battle every day against the statists to return America to the founding principles that made her the strongest, the freest, and the most prosperous nation on earth. Because of you, Heritage is the undisputed leader in making the case for policy solutions on Capitol Hill that are based on the principles we all know and love so well: limited government, free market principles, and traditional American values. We're training congressional staffers, we're meeting with lawmakers to share our research, and dozens of times each year, our experts are called to testify before Congress. Heritage experts have also taken our message to the American people by appearing on virtually every major U.S. broadcast and cable TV station, radio show, and in every major newspaper in this country. That's your heritage. By the end, thank you. Who said that? Keep it going. By the end of this year, our experts will have written well over 1,500 pieces for major publications and will have conducted more than 5,000 TV and radio interviews. You cannot turn on television, turn on the radio where political discourse is happening and not find one of your experts there. Our websites, because this is in fact the digital age, receive more than 50 million visits a year. 50 million. And more than 4 million people follow Heritage on social media. In the 5 years since its launch, the Daily Signal has reached more than 100 million readers. So, for those who say, are you all on the social platforms and getting around the main street media? Are you getting past all of them to the people? The answer is a resounding yes, we are. And our influence extends beyond our borders. Every week, leaders from around the world visit our headquarters, and just in the past few months alone, we have had visits from the presidents of El Salvador, Estonia, the UN Secretary General, the NATO Secretary General, the European Union Ambassador to the US, and foreign ministers and ambassadors from nations large and small. I want you to know and understand that your heritage is the embassy for freedom. And when people are looking for liberty and freedom, it's our door that they come and knock on from all over the world. That's your heritage. I just wanted to give you a little sense of the impact that you're having. Those of you who have chosen to invest in the Heritage Foundation. It's important for you to know what's behind that number, that over 8,000 think tanks around the globe, and yet the Heritage Foundation was named as the one with the #1 impact on public policy. And I'm here today to tell you that from the bottom of my heart, none of this would be possible without each and every one of you. So it's not just the heritage accomplishments, but I want you to take great pride in the accomplishments that you've contributed to as well. And let me assure you, we're not going to waste that impact. We're not going to take all that goodwill and access and not use it for good. We are, in fact, at a pivotal time in the history of our nation. Americans, and young people especially, have been so propagandized by politicians, the media, and in fact, our failed education system, that they've warmed up to socialism and turned a cold shoulder to the bedrock principles like individual liberty and limited government. We are now seeing our founding principles not just abandoned, but trashed. People are being told that free markets don't work, that free speech is too dangerous, and that we should give up our liberty and our incomes for more big government. The great patriot Samuel Adams warned us about the price we would pay if we strayed from those founding principles. He said, "A general dissolution of principles and manners will more surely overthrow the liberties of America than the whole force of the common enemy. While the people are virtuous, they cannot be subdued, but when once they lose their virtue, then they will be ready to surrender their liberties to the first external or internal invader." Think about that for a minute. I don't think anyone in this room is ready to surrender. I certainly am not. There's something terribly wrong with our elected leaders if they want to repeal the tax cuts that have brought America a new level of prosperity and the lowest unemployment in 50 years. There's something terribly wrong when we have politicians who want to tax hardworking Americans even more so that they can hand their money over to the people who are openly unwilling to work. There is something terribly wrong when our laws allow the killing of nearly 1 million babies in the womb every year, and we have some insane elected officials who are even advocating the killing of children once they're born after the doctors and the mothers decide what to do with that life. Thank you. If that don't get you going, I don't know what will. The policies of the statists have wrought destruction. Rather than bringing prosperity, they bring decline. Rather than bringing unity, they sow divisiveness. Rather than protecting freedom, they subordinate it to ever more powerful government. That's not the America most people want. Even most moderates and liberals don't want that. So, what do we do about it? How do we stop them? How can we save this country? I think the answer is by going back to the future. I am convinced that the very same things that were required at the founding of this nation are the very same things that are required today to save her. And as I mention them, I want you to ask yourselves, are you willing? Is everyone in this room willing to say exactly what our founders said? And it requires of each and every one of us that we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And we've got to make that pledge, and we've got to mean it. It also requires that we defeat their ideas with the very thing they told us they fear the most, the founding principles. Why do they fear the founding principles so much? Because they put the power in the hands of the American people and not in the hands of power-hungry politicians. Amen. I know there's some Baptists in here somewhere. And you know, it's exactly these principles that we can use to build our reinforcements. At Heritage, our research shows us that there are large groups of Americans, not just conservatives, who believe those principles. They believe that the bigger and more intrusive government gets, the more freedom they lose. They are young people, they are women, they are minorities. Many are with us in their hearts, they just haven't realized it yet in their heads. And that's our job. These Americans want exactly the same things that we do. Solutions to fight poverty and ensure clean air and clean water. I refuse to give up those issues to the left, they're ours. They want to know how to create higher paying jobs, how we can deliver more affordable health care, how we can preserve the freedoms we have without turning over our lives and our paychecks to government. How do we do that? We know that conservatives have the solutions to combat and solve all these problems. What we need to do is reach out to these different audiences, talk to them about our common ground, and show them the truly destructive nature of the statist agenda. And then we're going to tell them that that's exactly how we plan to stop them with what we have at Heritage, the research, the data, the analysis to prove them wrong. You know, that's why Heritage has taken the time to sit down with the scholars and develop what we call the True North Principles. Each of you will find a copy of them on the table for you today. They're called the True North Principles because they represent the direction we always need to stay pointed to keep this nation on a positive course for our future. Those who believe in True North Principles believe that government must be limited for the people to be free. We believe that the federal government was always meant to be bound by the Constitution and not pervasive throughout our lives. That was the bargain from the beginning. Keep the government out of our lives. And that was never meant to change. How about this? We believe in our True North Principles that judges need to read the Constitution based on the words that were written rather than the outcomes they prefer. The Constitution is a contract between the people and their government, and just like any other contract, words matter, and they shouldn't be subject to changing interpretations. We believe in our True North document that people should be free to worship their God without fear of retribution, and that individuals, not government, make the best decisions for themselves about everything: health, education, jobs, and their own welfare. We believe in our True North Principles that the federal government was created to protect the rights of people. That includes protecting the first right, the right to life, because without it, no other right really, truly matters. We believe that the right to bear arms wasn't just about hunting or the early frontier lifestyle. Our founders made it clear that it was meant to protect every other right. We believe in our True North document that the prosperity of all Americans is best served by a system built on free enterprise. Data from around the world show us that without question, the most prosperous nations are those that are the most economically free. We know that when the entrepreneur down the street or the manufacturer on the outskirts of town are more free to grow their businesses, jobs are created, more people go to work, the economy grows, and the cycle continues upward. And we believe in our True North document that America is a unique gift from God, preserved with the blood and sacrifice of our forebears. And the way to protect that gift from those who would do us harm is through a strong national defense. As Ronald Reagan once said, peace through strength. These are just a few of the principles that you will find there. I would encourage you to read them, study them, and I would encourage you to pass them on. I believe that those principles are critical to building and maintaining the strongest and most free and prosperous nation on earth. Let's just imagine for a moment an America where these True North principles did not exist. An America where government's reach into our lives was unlimited. An America that became more like Europe, where people are thrown in jail if others find their words offensive. An America where only the criminals had the guns. Imagine an America like that. And that should motivate you to use these next 2 days to learn as much as you can, get inspired as best you can. And when we leave this mountaintop experience, go back into our communities and work like crazy. Unfortunately, we've seen some of these trends already in America in some of our larger cities and some of our more liberals or far left states. And we can tell that it's tearing this country apart. And that's why we need to do all we can to stop the far left agenda. And let me be perfectly clear about this. When I say that, I'm not talking about winning the next election, as important as that is. What I'm talking about is we have got to go back home and win the hearts and souls of this nation in order to turn this country around. And if we do that, if we present our case, if we make our case, if we help people to truly understand the stakes and how high they are, we don't have to worry about elections, people. If we do our job in turning this country around, we'll get those elections with the help of our friends over at Heritage Action, who do all the heavy lifting. Thank you, Heritage Action. I think that's why it makes a difference, and why Heritage Foundation and members like you need to hold steadfast, who will work hard, who will defend without wavering, and who will ensure that the people that we send to the state houses and to our nation's capital understand why they are so critical to the future of this nation and why they must stand firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to tell you that ours is a special nation and that we as Americans are a blessed people. America is a place where ordinary people found the freedom to do extraordinary things, to reach new heights, to let freedom ring, and to make our world a safer place. But right now, America needs our help to keep her special, to once again be a nation with a future brighter than its past, to be a nation where the government is of the people, for the people, and never feared by the people. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us at President's Club. Thank you for those of you who are here for the first time. Next year, we hope to double the size in this room, because in order to do what needs to be done, we need every foot soldier out there. And it's only through your unwavering support that we can do the work that we do to solve the incredible policy challenges of our time. Thank you for being willing to stand up for your country and fight for your fellow Americans, for your children, for your grandchildren, and for generations to come. Thank you for taking seriously the words of George Washington, who said, "The preservation of the sacred fire of liberty and the destiny of the Republican model of government are staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people." This is an experiment in democracy. By definition, an experiment could fail. At the Heritage Foundation, we are determined not to let that happen. Indeed, our liberty, our destiny, has been entrusted in our hands, yours and mine. And we have to do everything we can to fight for this great nation. And that may mean talking to new people in new ways about the principles that made us the greatest nation on earth. And so over the next few days, you will have some training, you will have some inspiration, you will have some motivation. But all of that will be useless if we don't take that back to our communities and fight like heck. Thank you. Thank you so much.